everyone, it's Missy, and today I am going to show you how to make this quilt block. This is a finished 12-inch by 12-inch size that you see before you. This quilt block is called Lucky Horseshoes because of the little horseshoe shapes that you see. You need 3 different patterns or colors of fabric, and the block looks a little bit complicated, but it's actually very easy to make. We're going to make it using 2.5-inch wide strips of fabric, and we're using the strip method or the strip technique for piecing it together. So join me as we learn how to make Lucky Horseshoes as a pieced quilt block. To make the Lucky Horseshoes quilt block, you're going to need to find 3 colors of fabric, coordinating colors. So what I did is I actually started with this print over here, and I took the green and I took the gold, and that's kind of my color palette that I will be working with. And so the fabric that you will need is one color. You will want to have a strip, and I should say that these are all 2.5 strips that you'll be working with. And the gold color, I have my strip for one block equals 2.5 inches by 9.5 inches. The sunflower print, I have 3 strips there. One of those is 2.5 inches by 13.5 inches, and the other 2 are 2.5 inches by 9.5 inches. And then for the green, it's kind of hard to see, but I do have 4 strips here. One strip is measured 2.5 inches by 13.5 inches, and the other 3 are 2.5 inches by 9.5 inches. Now, of course, if you are going to be doing more than one block, you will want to make that length basically as long as you can. Just making sure that you're working with 2.5-inch wide strips for all the fabric colors. And then, of course, you're going to need your basic sewing supplies. I have my green thread over there for my sewing machine, and I should also show you how my machine's set up as well. Any foot will do. I'm just using my quilt block piecing foot, I think is what it's called in the kit. It's just a 1/4-inch piecing block foot. You can purchase it on Amazon and have it fit your machine. On my screen, because I'm using the foot, I'll be using the center needle alignment. I'm going to have my automatic thread cutter and my automatic reverse on. I'm using the pedal, but I am regulating my speed with my slider. I'm using a Brother SE400 machine, so basically all my settings are programmed in. You can do this with any sewing machine. You could do it with any sewing foot. We're just going to be sewing with 1/4-inch seam allowances. I'm doing the straight stitch, 3.5 millimeter, is the needle position, and then 2.5 millimeter is the actual stitch length. I have no idea why my machine's set up in millimeters right now, because I usually have it in inches, but so that's what I'm working with. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this gold color, and we are going to stitch that onto one of the 9.5-inch long green, in my case green, strips. Because we're doing strip quilting, I have to get my brain into play here. So I'll be sewing this together in one long strip. So just to kind of show you, I got the right sides of my fabric facing each other. I have my machine set up. I'm just going to do needle down to get started, and I am just going to start sewing along. This is a great beginner project. If you're a beginner, I'm just taping right now, so I'm on my slowest sewing speed so I don't screw up, because it's hard to sew and film and talk at the same time, but just go at the slowest speed. All you have to do is make one long stitching line, and then when I get to the end, I'm just going to click my reverse button and basically, cut the thread, and we're ready to sew another strip together. Alright, so I've sewn my strip together. You can see I got the gold on the one side. My lighting's really bad over here by my ironing table. But I have the gold and the green together. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to iron that. So that way the green, so I leave the green on top, and then all I do is I kind of open this up. I just push it open so the seam lays flat against the back of the darker color. So I don't know if you can see that too well, but so the seam is laying flat against the green color. So I'm going to be having my seams open to the outside of my block. So, and it's really not going to make too much difference. You can have it open up to the inside for sewing purposes. It's not going to matter too much with this block, but I'm just going to have it flattened off to one side. Now that I have my strips pressed, I am going to sew another 9.5 inch long strip to the other side of my gold fabric. I'm not going to show you the sewing process because it's going to be the same as sewing the strip to this one. Alright, and once I have that strip sewn on, I just press it open, and I finished my first patch color combination, so I can actually set that one off to the side. And we're going to do the exact same thing now with the sunflower print. We're going to take one of the 9.5 inch long fabric pieces, and then we're going to take the other 9.5 inch long green piece. So that should be your last one in that stack. And then we're just going to sew this strip onto this strip. Once we've done that, we're going to take our other 9.5 inch strip of the sunflower print and sew it onto the green. So we're going to have the three of colors sewn together in one long strip. We're going to press that, and then we'll come back and we'll start cutting out our blocks. So I have my strips sewn together. I'm going to show you on the sunflower one, I pressed the seams towards the middle where the dark green fabric was, and then on my golden green one I have my seams pressed to the outside to the green fabric. So the reason why I'm doing that is because in the pattern I will be sewing these two next to each other, so that way my seams kind of lay up real nice. You won't be able to see here, but this one would be outside. This one would be on the inside, and so it'd be really nice for when I sew. They'll be nice, lay nice and flat, and kind of shove right up next to each other, so it'll make for better seams. But now that I have these sewn together and pressed, I am going to start cutting my patches. So what you want to do is you want to take a ruler and you're going to cut your patches so they are 4.5 inches in length, and you're going to cut 2 of them from your 9.5 strips here that you had, and 2 more from this one. I can't do that in the video because I'm holding on to my camera, but you should have actually some selvage left for the 9.5 inches, because 4.5 plus 4.5 is 9, so you should have ½ an inch extra. That allows you to kind of square up things if you have to square up things and on the beginning or end. So let's get those cut. Okay, so now you should have your 4.5 inch length patches, and you should still have your 2 strips left. Now these ones are the 2.5 inch wide, 13.5 inch length strips. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your sunflower print and you're going to match it to the patches that have the sunflower, and then the ones that have the dark green on the outside are going to match with your green strips. I'm just going to do my dark green ones. I'm going to set these ones off to the side. And I am just going to sew these on the length to one side of this, and I'll have that set up on the sewing machine so you can see. So just like before, I have everything set up as a straight stitch. I'm doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I am just sewing along the one right sides together. I'm going to try to speed up here a little bit. Alright, so being that I have one long strip, I'm actually going to butt up my other patch right after this one, and we're going to square things up later on. I'm going to just raise my foot. Make sure your needle is sunk down before you raise your foot, otherwise things can get a little messy. So I'm going to try to get this as close as I can. I'm going to set my foot back down, get things lined up, and then I'm going to slowly start sewing forward, just like that. And that's kind of how you butt up, so that way you don't waste time. You can just, if you're doing multiple blocks, just keep going and then we'll square things up in the end. Okay, so I also sewed up the ones for the sunflowers, and I pressed the seams. So I pressed one seam one direction, and I pressed the other seam the other direction. So when we sew these blocks together, the seams will sandwich together. And then all I need to do now is square up the blocks. So you want them to be 6.5 inches wide. So just take your ruler, measure the 6.5 inches, and make sure that they're squared up on either side. And then we will be ready to start sewing the patches together. Alright, so I arranged the patches out into our 4-patch sequence here. So on the sunflower ones I just have the horseshoe kind of pointing up, and then on the green ones I have the horseshoe pointing down. And then that is it. All I need to do now is sew them together along this seam, sew them together along this seam, and we'll have our completed patch. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.